Thank you for being here. Speaking at the end of the conference is always, it's not good because I have to wait with the nervous feeling through all day. So I feel like already exhausted, but let's get started. In this talk, I will talk about the Lazarus Group again and their latest campaign and what is the other campaigns connection we attribute to the already Lazarus Groups. Allow me to introduce myself briefly. I'm working in the Kaspersky Global Research and Analysis team as a lead security researcher, and I'm the only one researcher who can speak the Korean in our team, so I usually tracking the Korean-speaking APT actors. And I was raised and born in South Korea, so when I was a little, I usually play the Squid Game with my friends. Of course, we didn't kill each other, but we play the Squid Game every day. So I can say I'm a master of the Squid Game. So if you need some tips and tricks, then I can share many things. So just let me know. Yeah, I talk about the Lazarus Group. I don't ask to anything about this group. I don't want to ask you guys to raise your hand who knows this group. I think that everyone in this room already know about this group. They were officially published by the Nobeta research named their Operation Blockbuster in 2014. And interesting point is that usually the threat actor has one intention and motivations, but this group has several motivations. Sometimes they want to gather some financial profit. Sometimes they use their cyber capability for cyber espionage. And sometimes they just want the data theft. And for this, they use many kind of capability these days. When I just start to track this group, they just use very clumsy malware. So it's very easy to track them. But these days, they are different. They have several clusters and several techniques and tactics. I will explain later. This is the brief history, how I can start this research and what is the background story of that. It's just several months ago. When I just in the very hot day in summer, I working in the coffee shop, and I found some suspicious detection from in one of the South Korea software vendor. And during the 1 month, several hosts in same company was compromised through the same malware. So most interesting part was that parent process who created this Lazarus malware was the legitimate software. It's widely used in software in South Korea. South Korea has some strange IT environment. You know, if you want to use the internet banking, or if you want to use any kind of government service, you have to install this kind of software mandatory. If you deny install this software, you cannot use any kind of this service. So even my computer in my home, non-working host, that host also installed this kind of software. So almost several million of hosts in South Korea already installed this software, and which means the threat actor is really want to abuse this software to deliver their malware. So it's a already known incident in South Korea, so many government agency and other security vendor published about this incident, and according to their research, this threat actor injected the malicious script to the media site and send to that link to their target. And I also have a chance to look into these software vendors detection, and they also compromised with the same malware at the middle of the 2022. And after almost a year left, in early of the 2023, the same malware was infected again. So I'm just curious why this vendor is keep, infected with Lazarus malware. So I searched through the whole research I've been through, and I finally found that this company was being a target of the Lazarus Group from the 2019. So it's almost 4 years. During the 4 years, Lazarus Group continue to compromise this software vendor, and eventually they found some vulnerability of their software and start to use that vulnerability to deliver the malware, and they attacked another software vendor in South Korea. That's the why I named this as cascading compromise. Then let's talk about the malware. It's the most interesting part for you guys, not me. But we found many kind of malware during this research. So in order to persistent mechanism and start an infection chain, the Lazarus Group implanted many kind of they used many kind of tricks. The first one is a phantom DLL. Any guys heard about this phantom DLL technique? No one. Actually, it's not a new technique. It's not a novel technique, but not common technique these days. When the Windows system executes Windows service or Windows specific process executed, it searches some non-existent DLL. For example, this process, spool SV, Windows spooler process executed, it tries to find the UAL API.dll from the system folder. If this file is not exist, that's no problem. But this file exists, then spool SV process load this file. So the threat actor, if they can create this UAL API.dll in the system folder, they could be used for the persistent mechanism. So it's very sophisticated technique, I think. And several server-based Windows contains this file, UAL API.dll, but client-side Windows, like a Windows 10 or Windows 7, does not have this file. So the threat actor uses that point. And another technique they use is side loading. It's a very well-known technique. The threat actor created two legitimate file and the malicious file at the same folder, and registered the legitimate file to the Windows registry. And after reboot the system, the malicious loader is loaded by the legitimate file. And they used several techniques and several file paths, but eventually the same payload was launched on the memory. We named the SignBT, and I will explain why we named it the SignBT. This is the SignBT malware C2 communications. It has several stages. It's a HTTP-based backdoor. It's a very typical backdoor. At the first stage, it sends a beacon signal to the C2 server, and it received the AES encryption key and the success message. Then it proceeds to the next step. In the second step, it collects the basic system information like OS version or computer name or username, and encrypt it and send back to the C2 server. And at the third stage, it starts to receive some command from the C2 server and some additional parameters, and execute them and send back the result to the C2 server. It's a very, typical backdoor type, but it has some kind of uncommon characteristics. When it's created post data, at first it created 3 8-byte data. The first 8 byte was the predefined prefix. It always starts with the SignBT characters, 6 characters. That's the reason I named the SignBT. And next 8 byte was the 8 characters of the MD5 hash of the computer name. The threat actor might be used this second 8 byte value for the victim identifier. And third 8 byte was a random generated 8 characters. And these characters is created at every HTTP connection. So threat actor used the last 8 byte for the session identifiers. They also created a 24 byte XOR key randomly and encrypted these two 24 bytes using the XOR and concatenated the two value and sent them to the C2 servers. It's very challenging to make a network detection because every time they created a random key and they encrypt it and send it to the random value. This is the delivered value from the response data from the C2 server, and it looks like HTML data, but between the script tag, they send some encrypt command from the C2 servers. As I said, SignBT is a typical backdoor. It have a very comprehensive backdoor capabilities. But it has some kind of class and very straightforward backdoor name. You can see the CC brush. There's some additional command like dynamically update their configurations. In CC list, they can run additional process or file and inject malicious DLL to another process. And CC combo box, they can, this malware can gather additional information using this command. And CC button, they can this class is used for the exfiltration, like upload additional file or screen capture. And most interesting command I found is a cc bitmap. You can see a lot of Windows command in there, usually used for the post-exploitation phase. This actor implemented the whole Windows command inside of malware. They using their own code and implemented the whole Windows command inside their malware. And this is a typical characteristics of a recent Lazarus Group malware, because recently many endpoint products detect a suspicious behavior using some process relationship kind of that. If some suspicious process created a Windows command, many security products raise the alert, right? So Lazarus Group well understand about that. So they start to implement the whole Windows command inside the malware. So if they execute the ping command, there is no additional process creation. So that's the reason they implement the whole this kind of Windows command. And there is one weird command like a deploy. There is no Windows command like a deploy, but when this backdoor received the deploy command, it created the phantom DLL for persistent mechanism. So initially, the SIMBT malware only executes on the memory, and it checked the victim using the validation process. And if we conclude this victim is valuable, then they using the deploy command and implant additional backdoors. And we also found some additional malware on the memory. Using the SIMBT backdoors, they received additional payload. And one of them was an LP client. It's not new malware for us. We've been tracking this malware since the 2020. The Lazarus Group attacked the defense contractor. They using this malware first. It's a very simple malware. They just reported the victim's status, including the general information, and receive the additional payload, usually the shellcode, and executing on the memory. And this malware also very evolved until recently. They well-known understanding about the detection of endpoint, so they adopt many techniques to evade the detection, like disable user mode syscall hooking or unhooked very important APIs and recover the original text section of a system DLL. Using this kind of technique, they try to evade the detection using the EDR product. And looking to this LP client malware, I found some connection with the other campaign. This is a software vendor targeting attack I explained now. And in this process, as you can see, they're using the LP client on the memory. And at the early of this year, the Lazarus Group attacked the defense contractor and the nuclear engineer using the Tronized VNC applications. They using the LinkedIn profile, they contact to the employee in the defense contractor, and they're using this Tronized VNC client for disguising as a job application and some technical testing. But when the victim is just executed this VNC client, it does not happen anything. But if after executing this VNC client, they select the server list from the drop-down menu, then LP client was executed on the memory. So in this case, they also using the LP client as well. And another case is before I heading to this Phuket, I just finished this research. And this is about the Lazarus Group attacking the cryptocurrency exchange until recently. And before we already published about the Gopram cluster with my colleague. And this Gopram cluster is associated with the 3CX supply chain attack. But in the novel infection chain, they also use the LP client as well. You can see this three campaign is only happening in these years. But they attack the different industry. But they also use the different infection chain with the different malware cluster. But they also use the same malware LP client. So we attribute to they are one threat actors, but they have a different campaign and different motivation. They attack the South Korea software vendor for using the software exploit. But maybe they want to some cyber espionage attack targeting the South Korea, and they also attack the defense contractor with the very sophisticated social engineering attack. And they also attack the cryptocurrency industry with at this time we don't know the infection vector, but previously they used the 3CX supply chain. And you can see this campaign has totally different motivations, right? One campaign is just for the financial gathering, the other is cyber espionage and want to steal some intellectual property. But they maintain the several malware cluster and with the several infection vector. But we still found a lot of connections with them, like a LP client, and they implement the whole Windows command inside the malware. And we also found some overlap with the command and control servers. This kind of tactic we found, we keep tracking of these campaigns. This is the takeaways. They very, continuously improve their capabilities until these days, and I think they are well organized and a well resourced group. When I just start to track the Lazarus Group, they just use a very, very easy peasy malware. I can easily, research that malware and make a report. But these days, sometimes I feel overwhelmed to track this group. So I seriously now consider the early retirement to escape from this group. So they are very sophisticated and very active. And to respond to this kind of group, the hit and run style response never works. So we need to understand the full context of this cyber threat. And I think that each industry, each sector, and each vendor, security vendor have a different strengths. So cooperation is the essential key to respond to this kind of sophisticated threat actors. And I think this is only 20 minutes, so it's not enough to deliver the whole thing. So I want to talk more in the later or at this dinner time. So if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you.